The strange ship appeared at the edge of human space without warning. It was beautiful in a way that made people stop and stare. The hull looked like it was made of living crystal, shifting colors from blue to silver as it moved through the darkness. No human had ever seen anything like it. Captain Jake Morrison was drinking his morning coffee when the alert came through. He set down his cup and looked at the message on his screen. An alien ship was asking for permission to dock at New Geneva Station. The message was in perfect English, but something about it felt wrong. The words were too formal, too careful. "They want to talk," Jake said to his assistant, Lieutenant Amy Chen. "Says it's urgent." Amy pulled up the ship's scan results. "It's big, sir. Bigger than our largest cruiser. But the energy readings are strange, almost like it's barely running." Jake had been dealing with alien visitors for 15 years. Most came to trade or to show off their technology, but this felt different. The ship looked powerful, but it was moving slowly, almost like it was hurt. "Let them dock," Jake decided, "but keep security ready." 2 hours later, Jake stood in the station's main docking bay. The crystal ship had attached itself to the station with what looked like flowing metal. The airlock opened with a soft hiss and the aliens stepped through. Jake had seen many alien species, but these were something special. They were tall and thin, with skin that looked like polished stone. Their eyes glowed with a soft blue light. They moved with grace, but Jake could see they were tired. Very tired. The lead alien stepped forward and did something that shocked Jake. It fell to its knees. "Please," the alien said in a voice like wind chimes. "We beg you. Our people are dying." Jake felt uncomfortable. In all his years of first contact, no alien had ever begged him for anything. Most acted like humans were barely worth talking to. "Stand up," Jake said gently. "What's your name?" The alien rose slowly. "I am Velthera of the Cathari people. We come from the Andromeda Spiral. We need your help." Jake led them to a meeting room. There were 5 Cathari in total, and they all looked exhausted. Velthera was clearly their leader, but even she seemed ready to collapse. "Tell me what's happening," Jake said. Velthera touched a device on her wrist. The room filled with images. Jake saw beautiful worlds with crystal cities reaching toward the sky. He saw millions of Cathari living in peace and happiness. Then the images changed. The next pictures made Jake's stomach turn. Huge black ships, each one the size of a mountain, swarmed around the crystal cities. The ships looked alive, covered in what looked like insect shells. From them poured creatures that Jake could barely look at. They were like giant bugs, but wrong in every way. They moved too fast, had too many legs, and their eyes burned with hunger. "The Vortex Swarm," Velthera whispered. "They came from the dark between galaxies. They eat everything. Planets, stars, people. They leave nothing behind." The images showed the crystal cities falling. The beautiful Cathari were being hunted down and consumed. Jake watched entire worlds turn black as the swarm stripped them bare. "We had 29 worlds," Velthera continued. "Now we have 17. Soon we will have none." Jake studied the images. "What about your military? Your ships?" Velthera's glow dimmed. "We are not warriors. We are builders, artists, thinkers. Our weapons are designed to defend, not to attack. The swarm has no fear. They just keep coming." "Why come to us?" Jake asked. "There are other species with stronger militaries." Velthera looked ashamed. "We tried them first. The Zephyrians said we were too far away. The Malari said it was not their problem. The Centauri offered to sell us weapons we cannot use." She paused. "We saved humans for last because we thought you were too primitive to help." Jake felt a familiar anger rise in his chest. The Cathari had ignored humans for 50 years. When Earth tried to make contact, they had been dismissed as savage warmongers. Now they came begging only after everyone else had failed. "What exactly are you asking for?" Jake said carefully. "Military aid," Velthera said immediately. "We will give you anything. Our star charts show the location of resource-rich systems. Our technology could advance your civilization by centuries. Some of our people could even serve your kind if you wish." The offer was incredible. The Cathari had technology that could solve Earth's energy problems forever. Their star charts could lead to worlds rich in rare metals. But Jake had learned to be careful of deals that seemed too good. "I need to speak with my superiors," Jake said. "Wait here." He left the meeting room and walked quickly to his office. He opened a secure channel to Earth and waited. Admiral Lisa Carter's face appeared on the screen. She was a tough woman with gray hair and cold eyes. "Admiral," Jake said, "we have a situation." He explained everything. The Cathari, the swarm, the offer. Admiral Carter listened without speaking, her face getting harder with each detail. "So, they ignored us for 50 years, she said finally. "Called us primitives. Now they want us to die for them? That's about the size of it." Jake agreed. "What do you think of their story?" Jake considered. "I think they're telling the truth. They're scared, Admiral, really scared. And if this swarm is as bad as they say, it could come for us next." Admiral Carter finished. "Send me all the data, I'll talk to the president." The call ended. Jake sat in his office thinking. Part of him wanted to tell the Cathari to leave. They had treated humans like animals for decades. But another part of him, the part that remembered old Earth stories about helping those in need, felt sorry for them. He returned to the meeting room. The Cathari were exactly where he had left them, sitting quietly. Velthara looked up hopefully when he entered. "We're considering your request," Jake said. "But I need more information. How long before the swarm reaches your remaining worlds?" 6 months, Velthara said. "Maybe less. They move faster as they grow stronger." Jake's blood ran cold. 6 months was not much time to prepare for a war. Over the next 3 days, Jake worked with the Cathari to understand their enemy. Dr. Sam Rodriguez, the station's chief scientist, studied the swarm data. What he found was disturbing. "They're not random," Sam told Jake. "Look at this pattern." The holographic map showed the swarm's movements over the past year. It looked chaotic at first, but Sam highlighted certain routes. "They're not just eating everything they find," Sam explained. "They're moving in a specific direction, and if they keep going this way..." The projection showed the swarm's likely path. It led directly toward the Milky Way. Toward Earth. "How long?" Jake asked. "If they finish with the Cathari worlds and keep moving at current speed, maybe 2 years before they reach human space." Jake felt the weight of the decision. This was not just about helping the Cathari anymore. This was about humanity's survival. The answer came from Earth that evening. President Karen Williams appeared on the secure channel, her face grim but determined. "We're going to help them," she said simply. "Not because we owe them anything, but because we have to. The swarm will come for us eventually. Better to fight them now while we have allies." Jake nodded. "What are your orders?" "Tell the Cathari we accept their offer. We'll provide military aid in exchange for their technology and star charts." "And Jake?" "Yes, ma'am. Tell them they're about to see what humans are really capable of. It's time to show the galaxy why they should have been nice to us." The call ended. Jake walked slowly back to the meeting room where the Cathari waited. Velthara looked up as he entered, hope and fear warring in her glowing eyes. "The answer is yes," Jake said. "Humanity will help you fight the swarm." Velthara collapsed to her knees again, but this time in relief. "Thank you," she whispered. "Thank you," Jake helped her stand. "Don't thank us yet," he said quietly. "You asked for help. You're about to get it. But I don't think you understand what that means." Outside the station, human ships were already beginning to move. The war machine that had slept for decades was waking up, and when it fully opened its eyes, the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days after President Williams gave the order, Velthara stood on the observation deck of New Geneva Station. She watched in amazement as human ships began arriving, but these were not the crude metal boxes she expected from a primitive species. The first ship to arrive was sleek and black like a shark made of metal. It moved through space without any visible engines, silent as death itself. Behind it came dozens more, each one different, but all carrying the same feeling of controlled violence. "Impressive, aren't they?" Captain Jake Morrison said, joining her at the window. Velthera nodded slowly. They are not what we expected from human ships. Jake smiled, but it was not a friendly smile. Most people don't expect much from humans. We find that useful. The largest ship was arriving now. It was massive, bigger than any Cathari vessel. Its hull was covered in armor plates that looked like they could stop anything. Weapon ports lined its sides like the eyes of a spider. The U.S. Retribution, Jake said. Admiral Carter's flagship. She'll be commanding the operation. A shuttle launched from the great ship and docked with the station. Minutes later, Admiral Lisa Carter walked onto the observation deck. She was a small woman with gray hair, but something about her made Velthera want to step back. "So, you're the ones who need saving," Admiral Carter said, looking at Velthera with cold eyes. "We are grateful for your help," Velthera replied carefully. "Don't be grateful yet," the Admiral said. "You haven't seen the price." Over the next week, Velthera learned what that meant. The humans began asking for things. They wanted detailed maps of every Cathari world. They wanted to know the location of every resource, every factory, every ship. They wanted access to Cathari databases, communication networks, and defense systems. "This is too much," one of Velthera's advisors, Kethma, complained. "They want to know everything about us." But Velthera understood. The humans were not just offering help. They were taking control. And perhaps that was what her people needed. Colonel Rick Barnes arrived with the first wave of human ground forces. He was a big man with scars on his face and hands that had seen too much fighting. His soldiers were different from any military Velthera had seen. They moved like predators, always watching, always ready. "Your people know how to fight?" Colonel Barnes asked Velthera during their first meeting. "We know how to defend ourselves," she replied. Barnes laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Defending is what you do when you're losing. We're going to teach the swarm what attacking really means." The colonel's soldiers began setting up equipment that Velthera did not recognize. Black boxes with blinking lights, weapons that hummed with power, communications gear that seemed to work without any visible signals. "What is all this?" she asked. "War," Barnes replied simply. "Real war. Not the polite fighting your people are used to." Meanwhile, Commander Amy Patterson had taken charge of the fleet preparations. Her ship, the UES Vengeance, was unlike anything in space. It had no visible weapons, no obvious armor. It looked almost peaceful. "It's a stealth destroyer," Commander Patterson explained to Velthera. "The enemy can't fight what they can't see." "How does it work?" Velthera asked. Patterson smiled. "Trade secret. Let's just say we learned a long time ago that the best way to win a fight is to hit first and hit hard before the other guy knows you're there." Dr. Sarah Kim was working on something even more disturbing. She had taken samples of Vorthak bioarmor from the data the Cathari provided. In her lab, she was creating weapons specifically designed to kill the swarm. "Their shells are strong," Dr. Kim explained, showing Velthera a holographic model. "But they have weak points. Every living thing does. We just have to find them and exploit them." The weapons she was making looked wrong somehow. They were not the clean energy beams that civilized species used. These were ugly, brutal things designed for one purpose: killing. "Are these not against your laws of war?" Velthera asked. Dr. Kim looked at her strangely. "What laws?" "We're fighting monsters that eat entire civilizations. There are no laws here." But the most shocking discovery came when engineer Tony Martinez began upgrading the human ships. He was installing Cathari shield generators, but he was changing them, improving them in ways that should not have been possible. "How do you know so much about our technology?" Velthera asked him. Tony looked uncomfortable. "We've been studying it for 50 years. Every piece of Cathari equipment that ever crossed into human space we took apart and figured out how it worked. But we never traded with humans," Velthera protested. "No," Tony agreed. "But traders from other species did. And sometimes they passed through human space. Sometimes they had accidents. Sometimes their cargo got scattered and we helped clean it up." Velthera felt cold. The humans had been stealing and studying alien technology for decades. They knew far more about the galaxy than anyone realized. The truth became even clearer when General Chris Thompson arrived. He was an old man with white hair and tired eyes. But when he spoke, everyone listened. "Show her the Ghost Fleet, Admiral," Carter ordered. General Thompson touched a control panel. The space around New Geneva Station suddenly filled with ships. Hundreds of them, appearing out of nowhere like ghosts becoming solid. Velthara's legs gave out. She had to grab onto a railing to keep from falling. Where did they come from? They were always there, General Thompson said calmly. Hidden in deep space, waiting. We've been building them for 60 years, ever since we first met hostile aliens. The ships were huge, built for war in ways that made Velthara's people look like children playing with toys. They had no crews, controlled by artificial minds that could think faster than any living being. Why? Velthara whispered. Why build so many? General Thompson's expression grew dark. Because we learned early that the galaxy is not a safe place. Every species we met looked down on us, called us primitive. But they also feared us. We could see it in their eyes. Admiral Carter continued the explanation. So we made a choice. We would let them think we were weak, stupid, savage. And while they were laughing at us, we would build weapons that could destroy them all if we needed to. But you never used them, Velthara said. No, Admiral Carter agreed. We hoped we would never have to, but the swarm changed that. Over the following days, more human forces arrived. Ships from Earth, Mars, the asteroid colonies, even from the secret bases that officially did not exist. Each group brought weapons more terrible than the last. Captain Ben Foster commanded a group of soldiers who called themselves the Death Squad. They specialized in fighting inside enemy ships, turning the enemy's own systems against them. Kate Lewis was a demolitions expert who could make explosives from common materials. She showed Velthara a small device no bigger than her thumb. This little thing can crack a moon in half, Kate said cheerfully. We have thousands of them. Alex Turner was a combat medic, but his job was not just to heal human soldiers. He also studied alien biology to find the best ways to hurt enemy species. Every living thing has vulnerabilities, he explained. Hearts that can be stopped, nerves that can be cut, minds that can be broken. The swarm thinks they're unstoppable. We're going to prove them wrong. The most frightening revelation came from Dr. Maya Patel, who worked in psychological warfare. Her job was to break enemy morale using fear and confusion. The swarm is a hive mind, she explained. They share thoughts and emotions. That means, if we can make one of them afraid, we can make all of them afraid. She showed Velthara recordings of human battles from their own history. The sounds of weapons firing, soldiers screaming, explosions tearing through metal and flesh. It was horrible to listen to. We're going to broadcast this into their hive mind, Dr. Patel said. We're going to teach them what terror feels like. As the preparations continued, Velthara began to understand what humanity really was. They were not primitive. They were apex predators who had been pretending to be prey. They had spent decades studying every species in the galaxy, learning their weaknesses, preparing for war. You've been planning this all along, she said to Admiral Carter. Not this specifically, the Admiral replied, but something like it. We knew that eventually something would come for us, something too dangerous to negotiate with, too strong to run from. When that day came, we wanted to be ready. And now, that day is here. Yes, Admiral Carter said simply. The swarm wants to eat everything in the galaxy. That includes Earth. That includes humanity. So we're going to show them what happens when you threaten the human race. The fleet was nearly ready. Hundreds of human ships armed with weapons that could crack planets. Thousands of soldiers trained to fight in ways that civilized species would never consider. And behind it all, the cold intelligence of minds that had turned warfare into a science. We're going to save your people, Admiral Carter told Velthara. But when this is over, the galaxy is going to be a very different place. Everyone will know what humans are capable of. Everyone will know why they should have been nicer to us. Velthara looked out at the fleet preparing for war. The Cathari had begged Earth for help. They were going to get it. But she was beginning to understand that salvation sometimes looked a lot like damnation. The humans were not coming as saviors. They were coming as angels of death, and they were going to teach the swarm what hell really meant. The alarm screamed through the human fleet as they dropped out of hyperspace. Admiral Carter looked at the main screen and felt her blood turn cold. The Cathari homeworld of Cathara Prime hung in space like a dying jewel, surrounded by a black cloud that moved and writhed like something alive. "Dear God," whispered Commander Patterson from her position on the bridge. The Vorthak swarm was already here. Millions of bioships covered the planet like insects on rotting fruit. Each ship was the size of a city block, covered in black armor that looked like beetle shells. They moved in perfect coordination, flowing around the planet in streams of living darkness. "Status report," Admiral Carter ordered. "Cathari defense fleet is down to 30%, reported Lieutenant Danny Walsh from the communication station. "They're being torn apart out there." Through the view screen, they could see the beautiful crystal ships of the Cathari fighting desperately. Their energy shields flashed blue and white as Vorthak weapons struck them. But there were too many. Enemy ships. For every swarm vessel destroyed, 10 more took its place. "Ma'am," called out Ensign Kelly Roberts from the sensor station, "I'm reading over 2 million Vorthak bioships in this system. The largest one is—" She paused, checking her readings. "It's the size of a small moon." Admiral Carter studied the tactical display. The swarm had organized itself into a perfect sphere around the planet, with the massive command ship at the center. It was a formation designed to crush any rescue attempt. "They're not just attacking randomly," observed Dr. Sam Rodriguez, who had joined the fleet as a tactical advisor. "Look at the pattern. They're systematically destroying the planet's defense grid." Colonel Barnes opened a channel from his assault ship. "Admiral, my Marines are ready to deploy. Just give us a target." "Negative, Colonel. We stick to the plan." Admiral Carter turned to her tactical officer. "Begin Operation Hellbringer. All ships, implement Terran doctrine." The human fleet spread out in a formation that looked chaotic, but was actually carefully planned. Unlike other species that fought in neat lines, humans fought like a pack of wolves, confusing, unpredictable, deadly. Commander Patterson's stealth ships moved first. They slipped through space like shadows, invisible to swarm sensors. The Vorthak had never encountered stealth technology before. They had no idea death was moving among them. "Stealth squadron in position," Patterson reported. "Nuclear mines deployed." "Detonate," Admiral Carter ordered. Space lit up with dozens of nuclear explosions. The swarm's outer formation collapsed as entire sections of bioships were vaporized. The surviving Vorthak ships scattered in confusion, their perfect coordination broken. "Phase 2, Admiral Carter announced. "Ghost Fleet, you are weapons-free." The AI-controlled ships appeared out of nowhere, materializing from hyperspace in the gaps created by the nuclear strikes. They opened fire immediately with weapons that no civilized species would use in battle. Kinetic kill vehicles, metal rods moving at incredible speed, punched through Vorthak bioarmor like it was paper. Plasma cannons superheated entire enemy ships until they exploded from within. Antimatter warheads created holes in space itself. "My God," whispered Velthera from her position on the Admiral's bridge. "How do you have such weapons?" "We learned from our own history," Admiral Carter replied coldly. "When humans fight, we fight to win." The swarm tried to regroup, but Colonel Barnes launched the next phase. His assault transports ignored the space battle entirely and drove straight into the largest Vorthak bioships. "Marines away," Barnes shouted over the comm. "Time to take the fight to them." The transports crashed through the hulls of enemy ships like bullets through skin. Inside, human Marines fought the Vorthak in their own vessels. It was brutal, close-quarters combat that the swarm had never experienced. Captain Ben Foster led Alpha Squad deep into a bioship the size of a skyscraper. The corridors were dark and wet, like the inside of a giant stomach. Vorthak drones skittered through the darkness on too many legs. "Contact front," shouted Sergeant Kate Lewis as the first wave of enemies appeared. The Marines opened fire with weapons designed specifically to kill the swarm. Explosive rounds punched through chitin armor, acid charges ate through biometal. Sonic grenades disrupted the creature's nervous systems. "These things don't know how to fight inside their own ships," Foster reported to Colonel Barnes. "They're built for swarming, not corridor fighting." "Copy," That. Keep pushing toward their nerve center. Medic Alex Turner worked to keep the Marines alive as they fought through the bioship, but his job was more than just healing wounds. He had studied Vorthak biology and knew exactly where to hit them. Aim for the joint between the head and thorax, he called out. That's where their main nervous system connects. The Marines adapted, quickly, turning the bioship's own structure against it. They used demolition charges to collapse corridors, trapping Vorthak drones. They turned the ship's life support systems into weapons, flooding sections with poison gas. Meanwhile, Dr. Maya Patel was fighting a different kind of war. Her psychological warfare team was broadcasting recordings of human battle sounds directly into the swarm's hive mind. The sound of screaming Vorthak, the noise of their bioships being torn apart, the roar of human weapons designed to cause maximum fear and confusion. It's working, Dr. Patel reported. Their coordination is breaking down. They're starting to panic. For the first time in their species' history, the Vorthak swarm was learning what fear felt like. The hive mind that had devoured dozens of civilizations was experiencing something it had never known: doubt. Engineer Tony Martinez was coordinating the technical side of the battle from his command ship. He had jury-rigged Cathari energy weapons to overload, creating chain reactions throughout the swarm fleet. Target their bioships with energy feedback. He ordered his technical teams. Make their own weapons, kill them. The modified weapons sent power surges through the organic systems of Vorthak ships. Biocircuits overloaded and exploded. Living hulls caught fire and burned from within. The swarm's greatest strength, their biological technology, became their weakness. But the real horror began when General Thompson activated the full Ghost Fleet. Hundreds of unmanned warships materialized throughout the system, each one controlled by an artificial intelligence programmed for one purpose: total destruction. The AI ships fought with perfect coordination and no mercy. They calculated the most efficient ways to kill, the best angles to attack, the psychological impact of each strike. They were fighting machines in the truest sense. The command ship is trying to retreat, reported Ensign Roberts. Admiral Carter looked at the massive bioship at the center of the swarm. It was larger than anything humanity had ever built, a living fortress that commanded millions of drones. Negative, she said coldly. Nothing leaves this system alive. All ships focus fire on the command vessel. The human fleet converged on the swarm's leadership. Kinetic weapons punched through its bioarmor. Nuclear missiles exploded against its hull. The creature that had consumed entire worlds was learning what it meant to be prey. Inside the command ship, Captain Foster and his Marines had fought their way to the nerve center. The walls around them pulsed with alien thought patterns. Strange lights flickered in the darkness. Found their brain, Foster reported. It's huge, like a living computer. Plant the charges and get out, Colonel Barnes ordered. Kate Lewis worked quickly, placing antimatter explosives at key points throughout the nerve center. The Vorthak drones tried to stop her, but the Marines held them back with disciplined fire. Charges set, Lewis reported. 30 seconds to detonation. The Marines fought their way back to their extraction point as the bioship convulsed around them. The creature was dying, and it knew it. Its death screams echoed through the hive mind, spreading panic throughout the swarm. The antimatter charges exploded simultaneously. The command ship's nerve center disappeared in a flash of pure energy. The massive creature went limp, drifting dead in space. Across the system, the swarm fleet began to collapse. Without their central command, the bioships lost coordination. They scattered in all directions trying to escape the human killing machines. Don't let any of them get away, Admiral Carter ordered. Hunt them down. The Ghost Fleet pursued the fleeing Vorthak with cold efficiency. The AI ships were faster, smarter, and completely ruthless. They hunted the bioships through asteroid fields and gas clouds, destroying every single one. Commander Patterson's stealth ships appeared behind fleeing groups, cutting off their escape routes. Nuclear mines turned space into a killing field. There was nowhere to run. On the planet below, the remaining Cathari watched in amazement as the black cloud around their world disappeared. The swarm that had seemed unstoppable was being systematically annihilated. Status report, Admiral Carter requested. Swarm fleet 97% destroyed, reported Lieutenant Walsh. Remaining bioships are in full retreat. Pursuit vessels, Ghost. Fleet is tracking them. None will escape the system. Admiral Carter nodded with satisfaction. The battle was over. The Vortex swarm, which had devoured civilizations across multiple galaxies, had been crushed by humanity in less than 6 hours. But as Velthara watched the human ships methodically hunting down the last few swarm vessels, she realized something that chilled her to the bone. There, the silence in the system was complete. Where millions of Vorthak bioships had swarmed just hours before, now only debris floated in space. Pieces of black chitin and strange organic metal drifted past the human fleet like the bones of some ancient monster. Velthara stood on the bridge of Admiral Carter's flagship, staring at the wreckage. Her homeworld hung below them, scarred but alive. The crystal cities still gleamed in the sunlight, and she could see Cathari ships beginning to emerge from hiding places in the asteroid fields. "It's over," she whispered. Admiral Carter nodded, but did not look pleased. "This battle is over, but I don't think the war is." Dr. Sam Rodriguez approached them, carrying a datapad with a grim expression. "Admiral, you need to see this. We've been analyzing the swarm's bioships, and I found something disturbing." He activated a holographic display showing the interior of a destroyed Vorthak vessel. Strange chambers lined the walls, each one designed to hold something specific. "Collection chambers," Dr. Rodriguez explained. "They weren't just eating the species they conquered. They were taking samples, DNA, tissue, neural patterns. Everything needed to recreate a living being." Velthara felt cold. Why would they do that? Because someone was ordering them to, Admiral Carter said quietly. The swarm wasn't acting on their own. They were collecting for someone else. Colonel Barnes joined them, his armor still stained with alien blood from the boarding actions. "Ma'am, we found data cores in several of the command ships. The intelligence boys are working on them now, but early reports suggest the swarm was running from something." "Running from what?" Admiral Carter asked. "Something they called the architects. Apparently, these architects created the swarm to gather genetic material from across multiple galaxies. But the swarm got too independent, so the architects decided to replace them. The implications hit everyone at once. The Vorthak swarm, which had seemed like the ultimate threat, was actually just a tool. Somewhere out in the dark between galaxies, something much worse was waiting. Captain Jake Morrison's voice came over the communication system. "Admiral, we're receiving a transmission from Earth. President Williams wants to speak with you." The main screen flickered to life, showing President Karen Williams in the Oval Office. Behind her, through the windows, the lights of Washington glowed in the evening darkness. "Admiral Carter," the President said, "congratulations on your victory, but I understand there may be more threats coming." "Yes, ma'am," Admiral Carter replied. "The swarm was apparently working for someone else, someone called the Architects." President Williams was quiet for a long moment. "How long do we have?" Dr. Rodriguez stepped forward. "Based on the data we've recovered, maybe 5 years before they send something else, maybe less." "Then we need to prepare," the President said firmly. "Admiral, I'm authorizing the full activation of Project Deep Strike. It's time to stop hiding what we're capable of." Velthara did not understand what Project Deep Strike meant, but she saw the human officers exchange looks of surprise and worry. "Ma'am, are you sure?" Admiral Carter asked. "Once we activate Deep Strike, there's no going back. The whole galaxy will know what we really are." "The galaxy is going to find out anyway," President Williams replied. "Better they learn from us than from our enemies." After the transmission ended, Admiral Carter turned to Velthara. "Your people are safe for now. But things are about to change, in ways you can't imagine." Over the next few days, as the human fleet remained in the Cathara system, Velthara began to understand what those changes meant. Human ships were arriving from across the galaxy, not just military vessels, but construction ships, science vessels, and colony transports. "What are they doing?" asked Kethma, who had survived the battle by hiding in the deep caves of the planet's largest moon. Velthera watched as human engineers began building structures around the system's outer planets. Strange metal frameworks that grew larger each day. They're building fortresses, she realized. Not just here, but everywhere. Commander Patterson explained it to her during a tour of the construction sites. We're setting up a defense network. Automated weapon platforms, sensor arrays, communication relays. If something like the swarm comes again, we'll see it coming from 1,000 light-years away. The weapons platforms were massive structures, each one capable of destroying entire fleets. They were powered by fusion reactors that other species considered too dangerous to use, and armed with weapons that violated every treaty the civilized galaxy had ever signed. But these will protect everyone, Velthera protested. Not just humans. Patterson smiled sadly. Yes, they will. But do you think the other species will thank us for it? The answer came sooner than expected. Within a week, ships from 12 different species arrived in the system. Not to help with the construction, but to demand that the humans stop. The Centauri ambassador was the first to speak at the hastily arranged diplomatic meeting. He was a tall, gray-skinned being with large black eyes that showed his fear clearly. This military buildup is unacceptable, he declared. You humans are disrupting the balance of power in the galaxy. Admiral Carter sat across from him at the conference table, her expression calm but dangerous. The balance of power was already disrupted by the swarm. Where were you when they were eating entire civilizations? That was not our concern. The Centauri replied stiffly. Those worlds were outside our territory. And when the swarm finished with them, when they came for your worlds next, the ambassador had no answer for that. The Zephyrian representative, a bird-like creature with colorful feathers, spoke next. You humans have revealed capabilities that threaten every peaceful species in the galaxy. We demand that you dismantle your weapons and submit to galactic oversight. Colonel Barnes, who was attending the meeting as a military advisor, actually laughed. You want us to disarm? After we just saved the galaxy from a threat you all ignored? You didn't save anyone, the Zephyrian snapped. You revealed yourselves as the greatest threat we face. That was when Admiral Carter stood up. The room fell silent as she looked around the table at the various alien ambassadors. Let me explain something to all of you, she said quietly. For 50 years, you've treated humanity like we were primitive animals. You refused our trade offers, denied us access to your space, and called us savages. But all that time, we were watching, learning, preparing. She activated a holographic display that showed the galaxy. Red dots appeared across the map, hundreds of them. Every red dot is a human military installation that has been hidden for decades. Weapons platforms, supply depots, communication relays. We have been preparing for this day since we first met hostile aliens. The ambassadors stared at the display in shock. The red dots covered nearly a quarter of the galaxy. But we never attacked anyone, Admiral Carter continued. We never threatened your worlds or your people. We simply prepared to defend ourselves and anyone else who needed help. The Malari ambassador, a tentacled creature that spoke through a translator, finally found his voice. This is an act of war. You have violated our sovereignty. Have we? Admiral Carter asked. Show me one human weapon that has been fired at a peaceful target. Show me one human soldier who has attacked a civilian population. Show me one human colony that has been built on another species' world. The aliens could not answer because there were no such examples. The truth is, Admiral Carter said, you're not afraid of what we've done. You're afraid of what we could do. And you should be. She touched another control, and the display changed to show the remains of the Vorthak fleet. This is what happens to species that threaten innocent lives. This is what happens to enemies of peace and civilization. We gave the swarm a chance to retreat. They chose to continue their slaughter, so we ended them. Engineer Tony Martinez spoke up from his position near the back of the room. The defense network we're building will protect every world in this galaxy, your worlds included, but it will be built according to human specifications and under human control. Unacceptable, the Centauri ambassador declared. Admiral Carter shrugged. Then build your own. But when the architects send their next attack, don't come crying to us for help. The meeting ended with the alien ambassadors storming out in anger and fear. But Velthara remained behind with the human command staff. They hate you now, she observed. They always hated us, Admiral Carter replied. The difference is now they also fear us, and fear will keep them from doing anything stupid. Captain, Morrison joined the conversation. The galaxy is going to be a very different place from now on. Yes, Admiral Carter agreed. For too long, species like the Cathari have been content to let others handle the difficult problems. They built beautiful civilizations and ignored the monsters lurking in the dark. When those monsters came calling, they had no choice but to beg the primitives for help. Velthara understood. Her people had lived in paradise for thousands of years, never thinking about the cost of that. Peace. They had assumed that beauty and wisdom were enough to protect them. The swarm had proven them wrong. What happens now? She asked. General Thompson, who had been quiet during the meeting, finally spoke. Now we get ready for the real war. The architects won't make the same mistakes the swarm did. They'll come prepared for us, and we'll be ready for them, Admiral Carter.